that time, Jesus began to preach and to say, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand."
Well, it's exactly 6 o'clock. We have our lovely pastor here to open up for us.
With your head bowed, every eye closed, God of glory, God of grace, we thank you again for the precious privilege to call on your name. We're thankful, God, that again you look beyond our faults and met us at the point of our need. We now ask that you will make this time productive, and that God, you would open our hearts and our minds to be receptive and responsive to your will, your way, according to your word. We thank you for these, your people. We thank you for the one who has vision for this forum tonight. But then we thank you for those that will sit on this panel and open their hearts and their minds to help lead us through these turbulent waters that we are facing at this time. And so now we ask that you would just meet us in this place and bless us as only you can do. In Jesus' name, amen. Welcome to everyone. This is Tucker Missionary Baptist Church. I am the senior pastor here, Reverend Carlo Donald Draper Jr. We'd like to welcome you to our church. We'd like to thank Deacon Valerie Tibbs for coordinating this effort here on tonight. We'd like to thank all the panelists here. Make yourself at home. Is this mic working? Okay, all right. I said make yourself at home. Yeah, make yourself at home. Make yourself at home. Feel free. We have staff people available that if you need anything, they can assist you. Again, welcome to Tucker Missionary Baptist Church. We look forward to a great time tonight.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Lakia Hill, and I will be moderating this forum and this panel this evening. I'd love to commend you all from our community for being here this evening in such a short notice, in a short time. It speaks volumes to, the dire need for us to begin something like this. And this is not a one and done. I just want to make it clear that this is not the only forum that we intend to have. We know that there are other plans for other forums, and people want to do things, and that's great. And we are hoping that as we all go along in doing this, we'll find ways to also connect some of our missions and our goals. But for tonight, we just felt that it was important to pull the community together, pull a panel together. I'm not going to say experts, and I know everyone here that sits on this panel, they have a title with them, and they work very closely with families and children and youth from all walks of life in our community, but they are also community members as well from this community. And we are taking a stance from that perspective as well. I hope that you will be open and susceptible to participating. The model that we're using is just to give you some insight, make an introduction to each of the panelists with their names, but then they will introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about, what they do. Then I'll pose a few questions, but the goal of this evening is to walk away with an actionable item or an actionable step that we can take to reduce gun violence in our community. And we know that there is not one solution, there's not only one solution, but as we get the conversation started and we hear from our panelists, and then we also hear from some willing participants from the audience, as a facilitator, it would be my job to kind of take those notes in real time, pull it all together, recap, and then say, hey, now what are 3 to 5 things, and then from those 3 to 5 things, we can choose one. How does that sound? I'm sorry, is it working? How does that sound? Does it sound like something productive that we can do together? Okay, great. So some of the panelists here this evening, he's not here yet, but he will be on his way, which I think is really important. Our Syracuse City School District Superintendent, Anthony Davis, will be arriving Pastor Alex, I'm calling Alex, Pastor Bernard Alex. He is here representing National Action Network. He's the president of NAN. We have Ms. Akua Goodrich with the Syracuse City School District here as well. Mr. Edward Mitchell, who is a part of our Syracuse community. Noble Timothy Jennings Bay. He is the founder of Street Addiction, who is here. Lawrence Simmons. He's one of our youth. He's a youth advocate. Just appear, raise your hand, Lawrence. He's out in the audience, our young man. I'll be calling on him for just a couple of questions as well. We have his father, Brother Yehu Yashala, who is also here as well. It's good to see father and son partying into their community together. I'm going to start first from my right-hand side. And do you guys have the mics? Okay, good. You can pass that to Ed first, and we'll just pass it down this way. There should be a second mic there too as well. So leave it right. Back up to. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's what it was. Perfect. So I want to start from a community representation perspective. First, Mr. Mitchell, if you can introduce yourself to the audience, just talk a little bit how long you've been in Syracuse, if you're from here or not, a little bit of like what your action has been within our community with members.
Good evening. I'm Edward Mitchell Sr. I actually grew up a block down, 300 block of Oakwood in Central Village in a single family home. I'm from Savannah, Georgia. Came up here when I was about 5. Yeah, Georgia, that's right. So came up here when I was about 5, and I've been here ever since then. I've been working in the community since 1978. I started off in Central Village, and I went up to Eastwood. Ran Pioneer Home Center, Wilson, and I finished up at Southwest with 30 plus years, and I retired from there. Now I'm a TA at the City School District at Roberts School. So that's what I'm doing now, and I've been involved in thousands of activities, whether it was a food giveaway, responding to the hospitals, and just everything that you could probably think of, just helping our people. And, I could go on and on, but in a nutshell, we got to do something. And that's my perspective.
Thank you so much for that. Same question, yes, if you just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Jennings Bay, also Noble, the founder of Street Addiction Institute, and also the director for the Trauma Response Team. I want to say that what we're dealing with right now, this atmosphere has been set a long time ago. These seeds of destruction, they've been planted 25, 30 years ago. Right now, we're living out the moment where it's affecting our children and our families in the community. In the midst of that atmosphere, it seems as though we have these meetings, we on Facebook, Instagram, what have you, doing a lot of talking, but there's no authority that's backing the words that we speak. There's no authority. And it's fitting that the first session of this is taking place in the church. Because Jesus came along and said, what I've done, all men shall do. All right. So somewhere we're slacking because we haven't acquired the ability to speak into an atmosphere and change it. Words are falling on deaf ears. I know a lot of people were tasked to do work in this life, whatever your career might be, your program, aspirations, or what have you. But let me remind people, murder is a spirit. Syracuse is a place, and I'm going to put it out there, there's great jealousy among us. Jealousy goes to envy. Envy goes to murder. This is spiritual warfare we're up against. And a program can't fix that. No amount of money can fix that. We have to raise our thoughts to a higher vibration to affect what's on the ground. Jesus said, my will and my Father's will is one. Our wills collectively have become sluggish. And it becomes stagnant and crystallized. So that dead weight is attracting things into our community that our families have to deal with. We are in the process or called to do kingdom building, right? But let me remind people of something. I have a little interaction here, then I'm gonna sit down and be quiet. We live in Syracuse, New York, right? Everybody's aware that around the end of March, beginning of April, the snow starts to melt, right? It's trash everywhere. There's trash everywhere in our community. But in places like this, out in the community, in our households, we have the nerve to plead the blood. So we ask them to plead the blood on top of trash. Then we call for the Holy Spirit to assist us in the work. The Holy Spirit don't dwell around filth because cleanliness is next to
Godliness.
So I think some of us are bedazzled by the throne room. We play too high up here, got our eye on the crown, when it's the simple things that we can start with to move this process forward.
Thank you so much. And from that, I'm writing down the word setting the atmosphere. Setting the atmosphere. In order to do something, we first have to set the atmosphere for it. Pastor Alex, if you can, just briefly introduce yourself, talk a little bit about, your history here in Syracuse and some of the things that you do and why you're here tonight.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. My name is Special Secretary Bernard Alex. That's all right. And I grew up beginning 905 South Townsend Street, Pioneer Home. Lived in Pioneer Home till I was 7, 8 years old, then we moved on Midland. We moved on Midland between Calthrop and Pleasant. At that time, we were the only black family in that block. Some of you remember Enrico's being on the corner of Newell. It was a whole different climate, different atmosphere. It was a different atmosphere when we were growing up on Townsend Street. Walking up and down Townsend to going to Croton and up and down the street, it was this whole totally different atmosphere. As I was having a conversation earlier today, and what I shared in just this brief introduction, as my brother said, Brother Noble, talking about the concept of, say I talk from where I am from, particularly in the house of God. The spirituality of what is going on needs to be recognized. And we are trying to solve what starts in the invisible, trying to handle it, first of all, in the visible. It is out of the heart issues. It's out of what is deposited in the spirit of a person that causes them to act and to react. The National Action Network's mission is social justice and bringing social justice, reform, and equity to a people disenfranchised. The way that happens is by addressing it one family at a time. I've said, and I'll continue to say, you cannot fix the problems that are in the street, guns, shooting, murders, and all of that, the drug issue, if you do not address what is going on in the home. Every one of our young people came from some place, a home. People say single family, broken home, but they came from a place of nurture and birth. They came from somewhere. And to painted as broken, single, is saying that they're coming limping or they're coming disjointed. And I know too many people who came from what people describe as a single family household, but are doing successful things. So I quickly come to close this introduction. The book of Genesis says that in the beginning, we know, most of us, God created. And God created and gave dominion, authority, not just to men, but to men and women. He gave to them. And he gave them authority, and he specifically said what he gave authority to. Over the fowl of the air, this and now, all those things. Nowhere in there will you see where it says he gave authority for man, woman, people to have dominion over people. To have authority and to rule people. So we're out of sorts, out of order with what we see happening in our community, because we see people trying to control areas, people, the shooting, the gang violence, all of the stuff that we keep saying is going on and that we need to stop it. Has to, first of all, recognize that if you are trying to control anyone or have authority over them, it's all out of order. People are going to resist that. They're going to push against it. They're going to fight against it. They will kill against it. We can pour money, we can pour millions, we can build new houses. We can do all of the programming. We can have teams and basketballs and new schools. But if you move into a new house with a couch that has a couple of roaches in it, if you take that old couch to a brand new house, sooner or later, what is in that couch is going to infest that home. We have to address the infestation of hate. Where is it coming from? And the response of a faith community and all of us, we are becoming too reactionary. Something happens and then everybody has an answer. We got to speak it out. We got to say it out. What are we doing ahead of time? What are we doing before we get here? Before we get to the death and the hurt? What's going on in the home? What's happening at home?
So another point that I made, helping one family at a time, addressing what is going on in the home. Brother Gaten, would you please introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about your history in Syracuse and what it is that you do, and then I'll get to a series of questions to bring out more information.
Thank you for having me. My name is Yehu Yasharella. I moved here in 2014, and I actually, prior to moving here in 2014, I actually went to William Nottingham High School in my that was 1996 and 97, and I graduated from William Nottingham High School when I moved up here to live with my grandmother. So I'm familiar with the place of being a young youth here in Syracuse. And my background is from West Virginia. I'm born and raised there, and by my father and my mother, but they divorced later on. And I think that played a major part in who I am today, because no one ever wants to see their family separate. But in the separation, some growth was prosperous and some decline manifested itself. And the one thing that I realized, even if it is a stepfather or a man of God in the home raising children, if there is a man of God raising children in the home, their house will be intact. It will be secure. It will be protected. It will be anointed. And no hedge can be broken when it's protected by God. So as we discuss what we see for our future, the foundation that God created was God, Christ, man, woman, children. And we have to return to the order. And with that said, this is the perfect time that God has awakened us. And trust me, you're not alone, even though we may look like we're few. There's many that are awakening and coming out of the slumber. And with this awakening, there needs to be new direction. And we have to be careful who we put in front of us, because those who you put in front of you also have been played around with and been tampered with. And they can derail the focus. With that said, I'm pass it on. God bless this meeting.
Thank you so much. So a couple of things about the two, and I'm going to revert this back, like I said at the end. New direction and new leadership. There's new direction out there, new leadership, and you said who we place before you, which is again leaders. So in our community, we have to have leaders. Hello, Ms. Goodrich. Would you please introduce yourself and just say that?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. My name is Akua Goodrich. I am the Director of Student Registration for the Syracuse City School District. I was born and raised here in Syracuse on Corning Ave and moved to the east side in 10th grade and attended Nottingham High School. I've been employed with the Syracuse City School District after I left college and returned home in 1995, I believe. And so I've been employed with the Syracuse City School District since then. I started out as a grants procurement specialist, specializing in youth violence prevention and intervention. And so a founding member or whatever, designer, creator of the Partnership to Reduce Juvenile Gun Violence. Noble, when was that? 96. And just have a heart for young people. But I would like to say tonight that what do we believe about our community? Who do we believe that we are in our community? What do we believe about our children? How do we hold ourselves accountable while holding our children and our families accountable? As a director of registration, and tonight we have here Assistant Superintendent Tara Jennings, who's a former principal at Corcoran High School. And so many times people say, well, the issue is the South Side, right? And we know that's not true. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere right now. And as a director of student registration, probably 3 to 4 days out of the week now, it was every day, right? In July, August, and September, we're dealing with what we call safety transfer requests. So families are contacting our office asking that the children be transferred for safety reasons because they cannot attend a certain school. And it's not a joke, it's not a lie. We take the time to investigate. Literally, we have a team of people so that not one person, including myself, is making that decision. We have a team of people, including community members. Noble is one of them, who we come together when we receive a request, and we literally look into the request to see, can the student go here? Can the student attend this school? Can they attend that school? And after a while, you run out of schools. And so it is real. This is real. We're living, this is real. We don't just work in the district and go home. We live here. And this, I'm a parent of children in the district. 3 of them, 1 who graduated, 2 who are still here. And so my children are here. And so this is real for me. I tell people I have 19,000 children. When the parents call the office upset for a variety of reasons, the one thing that I am able to do or say to get a parent to relax is say, your child is my child. Your daughter is my daughter. Your son is my son. And I don't just say that to quiet them, I mean it. And so when do we look at ourselves in the relationship building we have with each other? Because we cannot stand in front of children and tell children not to do this to each other and not to do that to each other when we do it to each other. When we can't sit in a room because such and such got this grant, or such and such got this, or such and such has this skill, and you think you can do it, but you can't do it, but you don't want to sit with the other person. Come on. We can't tell our children to do this and that if we're not walking it and living it. In all things. Not just school district stuff, not just community stuff, but the little itty bitty pitty patty raggedy stuff that we as adults have to deal with because they're watching us. They've watched us. So who are we?
Thank you so much. You said a number of things, but just to get some balance, what do we believe about our community? And listening to you, also, what do we believe about ourselves? Because how we treat ourselves and we love ourselves is how we treat and love others. So I'm taking notes. Anybody else taking notes? I need to see. I'm a facilitator tonight, so if you have some pen and paper in your purse, your bag, or you have a pen to scribble on, pull it out so that I'm not the only one working here tonight, because this is a working room, okay?
Amen.
All right, so please, Ms. Fanny, introduce yourself.
I am Fanny Villarreal, and I am the Executive Director of the YWCA. Our mission is to eliminate racism, empowering women and girls, promote peace, justice, freedom, and equity for all. Through that mission, we have programs that we provide around the county. But I was born and raised in Lima, Peru, and I chose Syracuse to be my home. So when I came to Syracuse, I became the executive director of the Spanish Action League in my late 20s. Reality, I didn't know what I was getting into it in the not-for-profit world, because in my country, not-for-profits by that time, they didn't exist. And so, as I was working in the West Side and living in the West Side, I can see everything that was happening. So I was like, where is this group? Why are they doing all these things? And somebody told me, oh, they are the Latin Kings. Oh, okay, that sounds cool, right? Latin Kings. Who are they? Oh, they don't want to get around them. And I'm like, why? You don't want to know about them. So then I took upon myself to get to know them. And we have meetings after we close the Spanish Action League. They will come because they were my helpers. We talk about God, and we are in the God's house. Love was very important for them. Somebody that listened was very important for them. Somebody that will maybe help them to get their goals was important for them. Now, these kids were the ages between 13, 14, 17. I believe the oldest at that time was 19. Now, I didn't get to know the other ones, who were the ones who were kind of put in the rules, because they have a letter that it shows where the rules are and what they need to do, not to do. When I saw that, I almost passed out. But then I have to pretend that I didn't, right? So I have to put my mask, and I said, oh, so how are you going to do that? And they will tell you clear plans that they have. And that was using guns, or using bait, or using whatever it was. That was an awake for me. So what I learned from that experience, and what I'm learning now what happened, is that we have a community that somehow we're too busy on the phones, too busy watching TV, I guess, I don't know. So we don't have time for our own children. You know, everybody talks about, oh, we need to have some quality time. Right, we need to have some quality time, but we need to have some not quality time with our own children. We have to play with them, we have to listen to them. I threw myself on the floor. I have 2 children. I threw myself on the floor, and then they come and do all this kind of stuff, and I'm happy about that. Because we play. You know, I am a single mother, so I wrestle with them. How I learned how to do that? Because they're boys, and I want them to be boys. And I want them to be with me all the time, but that's not gonna happen. They're gonna be outside sometime. So I need to talk to them about the things that they could learn in the streets. Sex, guns, drugs, alcohol, and everything else in between. Because if I don't do that, who else is gonna do it? And so accountability as a parents, it is very important. We are parents, the single parents, we can make things happen for our boys and our girls because we are strong. When God created us equal and give us all the opportunities, it's up to us to choose whether we're doing that or not. That's the real reason. We choose this, but not that. We choose to go this way, but not that way. And that will bring consequences or rewards. And that's what is important, that we have these open conversations. I mean, we are adults if we tend to believe, because we are educated or because we have the experience, that we can create programs. Do those programs are the programs that the youth really want? Why we don't have the youth involved? Where are they? I see this wonderful youth here, but where is everybody else? Those are the ones that we wanted to hear, because there is a disconnection. Where is it? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so I have love, and the youth want to be heard, so the voices of the youth. And then also, I just want everyone to take note that the word accountability, or the sentiment around accountability, has come up at least 6 to 7 times since we started. So I put a triple star next to that. Do I see anybody else taking notes in here? Because I did say this is a working room and we're leaving with a plan. I'm just making sure. Put that out there. We have one other person to hear from, which is actually, to your point, is a youth. He's a youth advocate from our community, and his name is Lawrence Simmons. You can just stand up, Lawrence, and Pastor Alice will bring you the microphone. Introduce yourself, but because you are youth, I do have a specific question for you, but I'd just like you to just pretty much introduce yourself a little bit, tell us, how long you've been here in our community, and what's on your heart and mind.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Lawrence Simmons. I'm 16 years old, and I've lived here it's been 4 years now. And I'm attending Fowler High School in the 10th grade. So for me, it's been like an adventure growing from being in middle school here, and I've lived in the same neighborhood out on the south side, and I grew up with the same friends. There's a lot of kids in my neighborhood, a lot of kids my age, and we all grew up together. And as we've been transferring into we're 16, 17 now, it's different because they're starting to get into smoking and they have guns. I don't know how they're getting them, and they dressing this way is cool and talking this way, and they think that violence and gun violence is cool. And I think the problem is that the music and their parents and just the older men and older women around them living that life is influencing them, and that's all they know. And it's like, I'm separating from them, even though we knew each other for so long. We don't talk as much, and it's because I'm being raised different. Under my house, we're following God and things like that, and they don't have like a second road or another path to take, and that's how they're moving. So if I had to think of a solution, I just say they need an example, and they need a godly example, and they need people to really step up and take it serious. And that's what I have to say.
Yes, sir, you're valid. Yes, you did that.
Dr. Music earlier, and I were talking, and the music that we hear today, terms like drill music and trap music, and words are powerful. They mean everything. So it doesn't get talked about a lot. And I've found that whenever we try to bring up, or some people try to bring up things like the music and the home, there's this that, that's not it. But clearly what we've heard so far, the home is important and the music is important, the influence on our children are important, and it's not one solution and one answer. Clearly there's a whole pot of ingredients that just need to be put together uniquely to make this beautiful cake, and I believe that it's possible, and this is what we're hoping to get to tonight in the start of that process. I just have 2 questions for the sake of time because I really do want to engage the people that came out tonight, you all. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm really big at, this is not your everyday forum. This is not like, oh, I came to listen. We really, really want to walk away with a solution. So if you feel comfortable of moving around and getting yourself moving up a little bit closer, because that's important. So if you can, if you want to be comfortable where you are, that's good as well. But if I could get some people to pretty much get up and kind of just move closer to the pew so that we are together, we can have that energy of being together. Now, if you're worried about COVID and things like that, I understand, but there's some room here up in the front. We have a couple of spaces right here in the middle row, the second pew, just to come up a little more from the back. Thank you so much. Well, you guys all said a lot tonight, and like I said, this is not the one and only. And to Fanny's point, like, where are the youth? Maybe that's a part of our action item for February. Just a quick plug. I'll say it again at the end. February 28th at the Southwest Community Center. We'll be having another one, but maybe that's another action item that we can take. I just had some data. I did some research a little bit earlier today, and went to Syracuse.com. I found, they do pretty well most of the time with their reporting. And as far as like giving facts and data, they're doing a pretty good job now around that information, and also being a part of solving the solution, bringing a solution to the table, which I think is great. I found an excerpt from an article, and it said, from January 18th through January 22nd, the New York Syracuse Police Department focused on weapons and narcotics trafficking. During the operation, 5 two-person teams managed traffic stops and investigations in the focused area of the city of Syracuse and the town of Salina. After the operation, a total of 11 people were arrested and charged. According to troopers, 310 traffic stops occurred, 53 vehicles were searched, 9 vehicles were impounded, 144 uniform traffic tickets were given out, and 5 DWI arrests were made. With multiple weapons seized, including cocaine, oxy pills, heroin, there were 10 illegally possessed firearms / weapons that were also seized. And so I want to focus on that there were 10 illegal firearms seized. I want to pose to the panel, and you can just pretty much be popcorn. Not everyone has to answer, but if something comes to you, please do. With the information you just heard, what is your take in community and policing, and to solve the problems or the issues of gun violence? And do you think that is an actual solution? And if so, what should the process be? Who's the primary charge of ensuring that whatever plan comes up and working together with police, because clearly they're doing something, but what voice should be the primary voice or part of the plan development? Should it be with us?
If I may, thank you. As I shared with our convener, Val, that I do have another commitment that I have to go to, so if I could just share my portion on this, since I have to go. I shared with someone last week that violence does not stop at zip codes. And sometimes in our city, we think violence stops at zip codes, that it is at this zip code and that zip code, that it stops once it gets, just based on what you read from the town of Salina to Syracuse, that it is a prevailing issue throughout this county. It is a concentration of focus in, what they call marginalized or economically disadvantaged communities, but it is a prevailing issue. Sadly, we just saw last week a violent death of a child by gun by the hand of a parent. So it does not stop at a zip code, which says it's going past that. And so it's going to have to not just be a concentrated effort in particular locations, but it's going to take a real broad view. But yes, it is, our children are suffering, as I heard, in the schools and in our communities. But this problem is running up and down 81, 690, and it's moving quick up and down Salina. And if we just focus in one area, it's going to move to another area. And it's going to go to another area. We have to make the effort broader than just where they are saying. Come on, if they say, yo, they stopping. We all have seen it, yo, man, they doing stops on Brighton. They put it on social media. They stopping on, Midler. We don't get on Midler. If we ride dirty, we ain't going that way. So if we know, and if those who are involved in the lifestyle that we are know where certain things are, it's just going to move somewhere else. So we have to take a very proactive way and a very intelligent way, which all of these sitting up here and all of you out there are going to help come up with that idea. But it is, in my opinion, again, that we cannot stop at zip codes. We cannot stop in certain locations, because this thing is run, is gone. And if we just focus in one spot, we're going to miss another area. And then we'll see, again, a repeat of another problem.
Thank you, Pastor Alex. Anybody else have something to respond to that?
Yeah, I don't think that it's the police job to police our community. I think that falls on the individual families and households within the community. Police are not designed to be social workers or to have conversations with people on that level when they show up. They are designed to maintain a measure of order, right? The police should be secondary. We should have the relationships and the communication with one another to solve our own problems on the ground. That's the issue. And the reason we see this erosion in the community is because we don't exist by principles. We don't have principles. When you have principles, you have ruler or rulership, which points to measurement. We could measure from whence we came, because the older people in this room will tell you this atmosphere didn't exist during the 70s and 80s, right? We have to retrace our steps and figure out what happened and what's going on, because we can't say we exist in the community in love, because that was brought up. You know why? Because the other side of love is discipline. You cannot have love without discipline. So when you tell people I love you, what you're actually saying is I'm in discipline with you. But that's not the case, because we don't have those principles. It was brought up, the sister Kud talked about, when we get in rooms with one another, we have a bad habit of not being honest. And there is the issue of respect. You know what respect means, don't you? The root word of respect is re, which means to do again or to do over. Spectacle means to see. So you disrespect people because your thought that you have of them, you remake them into something else, which plays into the process of otherization. Now you're outside of the scope of humanity. You make people objects, and then you can hurt them. This is why young people, because they don't feel safe, pick up firearms and can point them at another human being, right? Because they don't see that individual as being a human being. They can't hold that thought. Once the trigger is pulled, that's it. Because whatever name they attach to you, those names don't have children. They don't have grandmothers. They don't have uncles. They don't have fathers. So the act stops with them. And I don't blame young people. I blame all of us as adults. Because children are only going to act like children when they feel safe. Other than that, they take on adult roles.
Thank you so much. So I have a question. Fanny, you mentioned earlier that you learned about the Latin Kings, which is a big game out throughout the country. You came to this country, obviously, a little differently than many of us, than some of us in this room. And so you had you recall your first experience, your first everything encounter when you got here. And so in those conversations with those young people from the Latin Kings, what is the common theme, or the one, if you had to choose one common theme or the common denominator of why they chose to be a part of a game?
Because they found in this gang group what they couldn't find at home. The listening, the love, the listening, the love, the opportunities to belong to something. That's the reason why they choose to do that, because they feel like they have that, all of that there, not in their own homes.
And Noble, you talked a little bit about your work, but you're really digging. You've done so much, and you, through your trauma response team. Yeah, no, I'm coming back to it actually. I was going to ask you to give, I'm just framing it for the audience because some know and some might not know that you too have had encounters with young people that are a part of the game community, and also seen firsthand the results of that through some of your work in the past with trauma response. What did you find was the common theme or the common denominator, if you had to choose one, of why they all chose to be a part of a game?
This is to the parents that have children. And I always tell parents this when I have the opportunity to speak. Make sure you tell your children that you love them enough that you'll die for them. Because if I'm the big homie and I tell them that, that's no longer your child.
Come on.
That child belongs to me and my neighborhood process. The people you work with, they're not willing to die for you. So you're going to go to young people who, for whatever reason, come into the community, get together, and we bond on that level, and we give up our lives for each other. And you think it's a game? You think your grant money and program is going to make that feeling go away? There are few people qualified in this community by anointing to deal with that issue. The brother said it. We got to be mindful who we put out front, because you could further traumatize people. Right? You can further traumatize people. So the issue that you talk about why young people join is because it's camaraderie. This is why they don't come get you when they have a conflict, because you start judging them. But if they go get the big homie, he ain't asking them questions. He going to get to it, wrong, right, or indifferent. Y'all got too many opinions.
All right, man. I just have one more question, two more questions, one question and a follow-up question, and then I'm coming to you guys. Yep.
I listened to what he said. I understand what you're saying, sir. But then, how the big homie out there is gonna be the one. But where do parents stop being the parent? I mean, when we try to discipline the kids, you just think you gotta go and say, you can't do this to you. Oh, I don't want this. You can't do this to your kids. But what I'm saying is, I'm an older woman, so my kids are grown. But when you're a parent, you stay with them. If they doing something out there in the streets, you go out there. I did it. They do something wrong, you say something. And like you said, my sister, where some of the parents don't even like each other. So when I come to you, say, my kids are having a problem, and I say, girl, your daughter did it. Well, what did your daughter do? Because she ain't nothing like her mom. You know what I'm saying? You got these parents out here who don't even like each other. half the time they know each other, and they don't even want to be bothered. If I come and knock at the door and say, such and such hit my car, how do you know it was my child? Well, I seen your child. I live on the dead end part of the south side, and I had a situation with some neighbor kids. I mean, I tried to find the parent. Then when I would go down the street, they would surround my car. So I'm like, really? Y'all really gonna try to punk me? I mean, young kids. So I literally have to, they're gone now. The landlord moved them out. I don't know where they at. But what I'm saying is you got kids where if you do try to talk to a parent, you end up arguing with the parent and nothing gets solved because the parent ain't gonna see that you're an adult and I'm coming to tell you your child did this. Oh, my child didn't do that. And you got eyewitness that they did it. That's all I'm saying. We out here.
That issue exists because you don't live in a community. See, we use this term community loosely. This is not a community. This is the Hunger Games. Everybody is in survival mode. So when you see an ant, your mind trained, you think you see one ant. No, that ant represents a colony. There is no ant without the colony. So there is no individual without the community. So we don't have a central focus what makes us a community. So your opinion and how you feel, that's how you feel. I don't feel the same way.
I understand what you're saying.
I'm just talking in broader terms. I'm not saying you specifically.
We always to respect. Where's the respect for the adult to say, listen, get out my yard, take that down the street, where your mother at? The first thing they want to do is cuss you out.
Who was all raised that way?
Right.
What we're dealing with now is post-crack.
I know, post-crack, but then you got your kids who you want to tell, okay, this is what you need to do for my grandkids. And they say, oh, Ma, I got this. No, you don't got it, because then when I try to check my daughter to tell her to check her child, then when they got a problem, Mom, what can we do? Well, I tried to tell you what to do, but you told me to mind my business.
I'm going to give you a prime example of community.
I deal with this thing.
Community. A number of years ago, going back in time, when we had to respond to, one of the young people, 18-month baby was murdered. Everybody remember that, right? The thing with trauma is it has a numbing effect. When the baby was murdered, the needle didn't move. So I knew we were in trouble, right? Everybody was like lost. Everybody was numb. Whatever side of the aisle you fell on. But God has a sense of humor to point things out to people. At the same time, you go east in our community, somebody crushed some swan eggs. The response of that community, hold on, people stepped up. They volunteered to stay the night with the swans. They put money together to put up surveillance cameras for the swans. These are the message that they sent to the rest of Onondaga County is everything within the confines of this community is sacred. All the way down to swan eggs. So much so the individual, he didn't get caught. Remember, he turned himself in. How many murderers among you?
Can I speak to that as well?
Please, yes, absolutely.
To your point as well, and my brother, pride comes before the fall. And parents have become prideful because they are making mistakes or they're not invested in their children as they should. And so when someone corrects them, they become defensive. And you're not correcting them out of hate, you're correcting them out of protecting. You want to protect that child. And I've been in that experience where I was mentoring young little boys on how to make money quick. And I put them on the corners, and you probably see them in the neighborhoods, and they were selling bottles of water. They were on every corner the last 2 years. And they were selling bottles of water, and they were making $50, $75 quick. And I said, you can make real money quick too, the honest way. So the situation became a little topsy-turvy, but I was trying to teach them how to save the money and not to fly through the money. And that's the mistake I made. You never get between a man and his money. but I was trying to teach them. But anyway, in the process, I had to go and talk to one of the children's mothers about the behavior of one of the children. Well, the father came up and spoke with me, and we were cordial, and we had a plan. And then, the child acted up again. I came back to the father and talked to him again. And then the mother became irritated with the fact that I kept coming back, talking peaceably, with solutions on how we could do better. And some parents were receptive and actually made their children come back and do it right. But then there are some parents that they're not necessarily hitting all markers. And it irritates them because they're already irritated with the child already. And it irritates them that they can't get the child on the right path. But we are able to do it together. We must humble our hearts. This will lead us in the direction that God has ordained.
Amen. Amen.
So, can it happen? It shall happen. Now we humble our hearts and watch it happen.
And if you can just follow up with that, and then also had another question for you.
Okay. All right, just to piggyback off that, the first thing is you have to love yourself before you can say you love somebody else. See, a lot of people don't take time to understand if they really love themselves. And as far as, like you said, the thing with the hitting the car, it's just a car. Call the police. Why knock on the door? Let them do their job. See, sometimes we get in the way of their job and we expect them to do our job. But we complain when they do our job. So you gotta love your kids, and kids gonna make mistakes. I made a lot of them. I got a rap sheet that'll drop to the floor. I just had a great mother and a great grandmother. I didn't make it to prison. I got gun charges, drug charges, all that. But I was able to retire from the city of Syracuse, government job, get a pension that comes every month. And a lot of times, my daughters, you gotta let your kids, you gotta stop talking to them sometimes because they know more than you. And it's crazy, and I don't want to get real funny up here, but I just walked into the center. Your granddaughter, my niece, that same situation I just had. So I know you must have got that phone call. But I'm still the one, all right? I'm still Shirley's son. So I'm only a phone call away. And, y'all got to realize, kids, I got 1,000 nieces, 1,000 nephews, and my own kids sometimes, they don't talk to me, grandkids, I don't care. I'm going to say what I say, and I mean what I say. And if they love me, they come back. If they don't, they all come back. They all get mad. My son right there in the audience, he done been mad at me before. But they know what it is. I'm going to stand on what I stand on.
Thank you for that. Actually, you answered the question I was going to say. What your time at the center, what are some things that for you as a comment from your role and position there, you're around everyone, and all the kids went before school, after school, at one point in time. What was some of what was that common denominator or that common theme that you saw with these kids and their behaviors that you think contributes to some of the behaviors and the gun violence we see in our communities?
Well, for some of the kids, like, I get these stories where somebody might have went and did 10, 12 years, come back. Man, I should have listened to you that night. You told me not to go with them. But they went. And then you get the ones that, a lot of these kids, their parents aren't loving them. They just tell them, get out the house. Or they tell them, you just like your father. You just like your uncle. If a kid has been told that from 2 all the way up, what you think he's going to do? He waiting to pick the pack up or the gun up to go do what he's going to do because he was told that's what he was. You got to love your kids and you got to, have fun with them. I got a call this morning, my granddaughter, he wanted to know where they get the song from. They're in the truck with me every day. They got to listen to my music. I'm 60 years old, and I'm blessed to have a great grandson and a bunch of grandkids. I was in Buffalo yesterday. You got to spend time with your kids, and sometimes you got to not yell at them. Just let them think they got it. They'll figure it out. They'll come back to you, and it'll be all right. And like with the neighborhood, I'm up at the school, all these kids up here, word to this. You wasn't even born. How you saying word to this? And then these girls fight until they, what they don't have. So, and it's crazy. And, I'm up at Roberts, and then these kids, all they tough, cussing the teachers out. I said, yo, I'm about to tell your mother and your grandmother, you don't know them. I said, okay. Sent him right to the house. He came out of school the next day. He said, man, who is you?
All right, thank you so much for that. Yep, just, if you can stand there in the center floor, no one but you work a little bit. Yes, because we're about to move to the audience and want to make sure we get some participation. I just got one more question for Coy that's going to, and only because she's dealing with, she works in our school district and so how many students, 19,000 or? 19,184 students. These students belong to some of these parents that we're talking about tonight, right? And these students are not with parents, they're with aunts, uncles, grandparents, and maybe some shelters or foster care, So I'm reiterating all these things because I'm hearing this common theme, and when we're going to move into just another step, I think that's going to be relevant to that. But while we have our superintendent, he's here, you can sit in the audience, but I have a question for you, and then we'll let you sit down first. Can I let you sit first? I can't let you sit down first, so you tell me. I usually answer some questions. Okay, so if you can raise your hand, Noble will bring you the microphone over to you if you have a question. Well, you can start we can start with, no, I'm going to get him in a minute, but let's start with Kenyatta. She has a question first, and I think she was sharing something earlier.
Understand, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm Kenyatta Calloway. I work at Boys and Girls Club of Syracuse. Today, just while I walked before coming over here, we had to close Central Village because they called us and told us that we had an active shooter in the neighborhood. So, with that being said, I was told, asked to be quiet for the last couple of months. I just started back at the programming where I was in a quiet little program. I called it the Penthouse, where I was at for the last 10 years, and now I'm relocated back to the Boys and Girls Club. But being back in the clubs, we have saw the numbers triple from closing 2 centers to reopening them back up. We are getting we're getting about 60 teenagers a night at East Fayette, and between 45 to 60 at Central Village, and another 10 to 15 at Central Village and 45 at Chandler Street. The biggest thing for me in the community is asking, how do I talk to these kids and tell them that they are not lose? Like, an active shooter is only good if you're underage, where these kids are now teenagers, and they're not getting told that they're getting shot every other day. I'm trying to get emotional. I left the clubs when 3 of my students got shot and murdered. Everybody know I spoke at all of their funerals. Where that was too much for me. That was 10 years ago when they were shooting each other on the east side. I'm back 10 years and it has not changed. It actually has gotten worse. So how do I tell these kids they're not close?
Can you repeat the last part of the question?
Meaning, how do I talk to the kids that come in our buildings? I'm back, they're here, they want to be here. I feed them, I clothe them, I do this without the funding. That's the best way I can tell you that the Boys and Girls Club is a community. And I've been told to shut up about my community. That I am not the boss, this ain't mine, this ain't blah, blah, blah. No, these are my kids. I got 300 kids every day that come in the building. But I want to make sure that they understand that they don't got to make the news to be loved. That they don't got to be shot at and or arrested or some type of tragedy to happen to make sure that they're being told that they can make it out of the city.
Gotcha.
No, before you go with that, I think you got most of it figured out already. You just said it all. You know, you don't.
Community to back.
But you don't have
Right.
the community might come later on, because the kids gonna go home and tell everybody about you. Everywhere they go, they're gonna tell them about you. If you're doing what you say you're doing, they gonna tell it. So you already where you're supposed to be.
I would like to add to that as well. Talking to children, walking day to day through your neighborhood. If you know someone and they play sports and you barely know them, but you saw them at a game, you'll talk to them and you'll say, good job at that game. But kids in our community, we have decided that we should not engage them. And the Bible says, suffer not the little children, right? So we're supposed to be engaging the children. We're supposed to be having conversations with them. I remember before God was merciful and trying to give me increase, gave me more increase in my life, I used to catch the bus every day and walk home every day. I engaged more children in that environment than I ever did in my life. And I used to talk to them. I bought them about sagging their pants. And so I would go, take my little bit of money and go buy them a belt. And I say, here you go, here's a belt. And then I would talk to them. And I say, you know, I ain't seen you in a while. How's everything going? Because I'm taking different streets all the time and I'm seeing different children all the time. And in the process of doing that, God allowed 3 children to be under my tutelage. And I actually ministered to those children day and night about the Bible. Now, out of 3 children, 1 child ended up in jail. He's not there long. He's going to be coming out real soon. But the other 2 have employment. They're taking care of their children. They're still trying to figure it out on their own. I reach out to them, and they reach back out to me. But they're now in a better place, and they realize that the gang violence, which they were a part of, and it was a few times that I had to bail them out, where one time a child actually owed money to a gang member for selling drugs, and he didn't have the money. He came to me and asked me for the money, and I gave him the money. And so we have to be hands-on, and I didn't have anything. But that's how God multiplies you when you don't have anything. I was able to save them. They are still alive today. And so they still have a chance at this. And even the one in correction, he has a chance. He's not dead yet. And so when we're dealing with our children, as you are dealing with our children, you have to put more hands to the plow. You got to be willing to get out there and walk in your neighborhoods. I know that there are community leaders in our neighborhoods that drive to the corner store and they only live a block away. That's not profitable. So you have to get out there and walk and talk to your constituents. Talk to your members that are not your members in the church, but members in your community. It does stand on the parents. It's not going to happen. The children are waiting for us to change how we communicate with them.
Amen. That's a sentiment of it takes a village. How many of us heard that? It takes a village. And that is a prime example of what it takes a village means. You don't have to be paid to do your job. It's all of our job to minister, to talk to stop and say something if we're led to. You know, not every child belongs to us. But if you know how they say, if you see something, say something. Well, if you see someone and you feel led to say something to that someone, whether it's a child or even an adult, please do so.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, please.
Consistency. Be consistent in how you love them. Be consistent in what you give to them, what you portray, and how you live your life. Really, because they're watching.
Say that.
They're watching us, right? But the consistency is key. Because just like, I think you said, someone said, they're going to run and tell, or as you said, they're going to run and tell somebody about you. You'll come, such and such. And even if it's 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, 10 months, whatever. I'm the director of student registration, I told you, and people say, well, you're not in the buildings. But you know what? When those kids, those families call me, and those young, I said, put your son on the phone. Put your daughter on the phone. I said, listen, if anything goes down, they said, here's my telephone number. If you feel you get ready to get into something's going on in the school, call me. They call. Miss Goodrich, listen, I'm feeling a certain kind of way. Because I mean it. Being consistent. We have to be consistent when it comes to our children. We're too wishy-washy sometimes. With ourselves. Be consistent when it comes to the children, how we love them and what we show. And I'm telling you, they'll see it. So build it.
Lakia, I wanted to just say something right quick because I didn't want people to miss what she said about the young yearning for attention. So we talked about an act. When you drive, this Syracuse, we in love with necromancy. You know what necromancy is? Yeah, we in love with the dead. I'm gonna show you. When you drive around your community, you see billboards of dead people. Why ain't no graduation pictures up there? Why ain't no family pictures up there? No family reunion pictures. So that tells you what our thought is and what we'll be comfortable with. So that's an action item. Everybody here could put $5 in, I'm just talking. And we could buy a billboard and put a picture up there that represents the young people so they can see and get the right kind of attention and not be put in a trance when they're in front of the church with all of the teddy bears and people kissing and crying. That's an issue.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Bibbs. I'm an activist in the city. And my whole point is that we have everything going for the kids in this city. But to get everybody together, to work together, to network is what different organizations have been trying to do. But when we try to bring all the organizations together, they're not coming together. If we don't come together and give these kids some type of dream or some type of vision, without a vision, they're not going to do nothing but what they're doing right now. And we as the adults must find them jobs or open some vocational places so that they can go and, if they're not doing really well, then they can learn a trade and things of that nature so that they can make money. We keep saying it's the kids, but I feel that it's us. We have let them down. You know, it's our fault because we can't just let our kid grow up and just give him a video game and then go to sleep, or get up in the morning and go to work without saying hello to this kid or I love you or nothing. You know, we have to speak to these kids and we have to stay on it. We have to be true to it. If they get upset with us, then so be it. We got upset with our parents, but we came out all right. So I feel that there's more network between the different organizations in this town. Today, we went to Albany. But we went to Albany because we networked with the city school district, with the Common Council Board, which helped us get the resolution that we need for people that's locked up. We don't want to keep dealing with people locked up. We want to build some kings and some presidents and things of that nature. So I think that we need to open up some more avenues for them. Yeah. Right now, they don't have no option to go get a job other than go to Burger King. You know, because we don't have, out in the suburbs, they got plenty of vocational schools. In the city, we have none. You know, we as adults have failed these kids, and we need to own up to it. And right now, we really need to come together and work together, because that's how the black stock market came. It was so strong that they had to blow it up. They had to blow it up because all of us came together. And this is what I'm talking about. We got too many organizations in this town that's getting money and doing very little. So we need to wake them up and pull their card. Ask them to read their mission statement, and are you doing it?
That's right.
You know? And thank you for your time.
Thank you. And just, brother, if you can, your shirt, it says communities, not cages.
Yes, community, not cages. That consists of 3 laws that we're going to Albany and fighting. And these 3 laws, it's an earned time act where people that have big bids and they're going to school and they're going to college and coming out with master's degrees, but they're getting no credit for that. And also there's the other one, eliminate mandatory minimum sentence, meaning that if you got a bid 10 years ago and you caught time for that, when you get to bid this time, that 10 years get added off. So you're starting off with 15 years before it even gets started. Syracuse got a rate of something like 80-something% of conviction rate because they put the bid so high that people have to cop out. And then it's the black and brown community that they're tearing down. They're breaking down families. We have to put more love into our families.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So I think I heard Noble say this some years ago when we were working together, and I think it's the reason that you can't talk to your neighbor. For a long time we say like we're living in the hood, we're living in the hood, we're living in the hood. And I think that the reason you can't talk to your neighbors is because we took the neighbor out of neighborhood. And it turns into a hood. And I think that the reason you can't talk to them is because sometimes we try to talk to them and we don't even know them, we don't have a relationship, and you can't correct somebody unless they know that you love them. So I think that's part of it, right? But I wanted to, because I work with Ed, and I work with some of the other panel members for a long time here in community. I remember working with VIPP. I know Ed and Noel, we worked together during that time. And at one point, we worked with 250 kids in the city. 250 kids that were likely to hurt somebody, and 250 kids that were likely to get hurt. And I don't know what the number is now, but I don't even know how many churches we have in the city. But if there's 250 kids that are at risk, at the highest risk, and each church could adopt a family or two, we would be in a much better place, right? We can deal with other issues like graduation rates. I work for the city school district too. We could deal with other issues, but I know like there's kids here that come from what we already talked about it. They come from broken homes, there's addictions, there's all this, but what they really need is, like you talked about already, family. And so if we have 250, we can identify them. I'm willing to adopt 2 families. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. I would like to, is there anybody else before I move forward?
Yes, a couple of people.
Okay, and if we can, because of the sake of time and we have to do an exercise, if we can just kind of keep it under like a minute and a half, that'd be great. If you make your point or have a question, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Donna Bradford. I've worked in the Syracuse City School District for 38 years, retired in 2014. And I do understand when parents, you bring the parents in because you want to nip things in the bud before they get to the point where they're out there doing things. But then when you've got parents saying to you, well, what did you do to instigate this? That's the wrong approach. But I come tonight because my mother, God bless her, she got real upset with me because I did a mission on Midland Ave, right at the boot camp area. I had to rally for busing for our kids because we moved from Kennedy Street up to the old Roosevelt School. And my mother's like, Donna, get off those streets, you're gonna get shot. No, Ma, I've got to speak up. I've got to say things for our kids because they're right in that crossfire. I work at the Southwest Community Center now, and I work with individuals with disabilities. And all summer, the last couple summers, we've had to deal with the gang right around the area. We can't even take our kids outside because we're afraid of the crossfire. We've asked for people to come down. The police, we've called the police on them. Could you come? Can you shush them away? And nothing. They won't do anything as long as they're not bothering you. That is a bother. Because what if somebody drives by to a shooting, like that young lady, and hits one of our kids in the community center? We're supposed to be a safe zone, like the girl said.
Thank you so much for that. And just so you know, I am taking notes, intend to pull something together so that we, the next one in February at the Southwest Community Center, can kind of reiterate what took place tonight.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Merlin Marie, and I am coming here representing myself. I've heard everything, and a couple things. You talk about discipline. When you take out the disciple from discipline, you're going to have problems. The one thing I didn't hear people talk about is prayer. When you want to break down the stronghold of the enemy, you have to pray, and you have to stay on your knees. We took prayer out to school. we take God out of school. God is now out of the home and been replaced with the music, the dance, all types of walks of life that people can be who they want to be, when they want to be, if they want to be, right? When you take God out of all of it, it affects us. So I want to point you to Proverbs 22:6. And if we're talking about how we're going to change it, when I moved, I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago, which is an island. Moved from there, came to Brooklyn, moved up here. And when I moved 14 years ago, I said to myself, this place has a dark spirit on it. What you're dealing with is not just people gone mad. There is an adversary that is battling for the mind of our children, for the mind of our families. And until we put God back in it, in our schools, then we start to deal with the problem. When we start to deal with the health of our community, not just talk about it, right, but teach and connect with resources. When we start praying, you see those strongholds where people and communities don't want to come together? You're going to find people saying, you know what, I got this program. Let's bring on 10 people. And I'm willing to do that. And this is why I'm here. Because I'm willing to help people see. If you have mental health problems, you don't need to be eating eggs. Because there are chemicals in there that will trigger your brain. We're high on sugars, fats, and carbs. All of those act as stimulants. So if I'm feeding on those things, what will I give out if I'm not eating fruits and vegetables? Right? It's a deep, deep dive into a greater problem. And I just want to say that because of that, there are many services. I can tell you about one. It's called Pathfinders. It's the equivalent of your Girl Scout Master Guides program, where our young people learn about God and they're held accountable for their actions. Give me 5 adults who want to commit their time to helping bring this program to life, and I will show you how changing what the dynamic in the community is all about. My number 315-401-1439. Maryland. 401-1439.
So I see people are starting to leave, so I really want to just give one more person.
Yeah, the charity on top.
All right, let's get the charity. Oh yeah, definitely. That was okay. So you're taking care of it all in one. Please stand up, Sue, and introduce yourself. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Please, if you can, just take a moment to introduce yourself to everyone here. Talk a little bit about your history here in Syracuse and.
He went to Henniger.
What?
Yeah.
Why are you here tonight?
Is there a question or am I just speaking?
Well, yeah, actually, if you can, just like I said, introduce yourself.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about your history here in Syracuse. Of course, you're the superintendent, but also what are some perspectives that you have and what's been going on lately?
Sure. My name is Tony Davis, and I grew up right around the corner on Baker Ave. I went to Percy Hughes, then Eastwood Junior High, and then graduated from Henniger. I started in the school district as a teaching assistant, and I am currently the superintendent, which is a true blessing and an honor. I'm going to just quickly, because I heard a couple of folks speak, so I'm going to quickly say that I'm going to respectfully disagree with a couple of things that were said. And one of those was really about the suburbs having vocational programs that we don't have. But the problem with that is too many people, there's misinformation that people don't know that we have 27 career technical education programs in our district, which is more than anyone in this area. All the suburbs combined don't have what we have in Syracuse. So that's information that you all need to know. The second one is a little more personal. since you're going to give me the look anyway. No problem. I don't know if anyone has the ability to take God out of school because it's in us. So I'm a godly man, and everywhere I go, I try to carry myself as such. So my point is, where I go, God goes. And if we're doing that in our homes and we're doing that, you can't take it out of the kids. So I think we have to do a better job of recognizing those behaviors that we're dealing with. We have to uplift entire families. We can't just stop at the kid level. We're trying to fix kids. It's not going to do anything. We have to help families get better. So that's really where I want to come from. Overall, we have a lot of work to do, and we're trying to do it as a full community. One of the things that you find that's different from our past relationships with the community is that we're welcoming our community to help us solve these problems that we have. We're hiring some of our community agencies to be a part of the work. We're inviting families to get involved in their students' education. And we're admitting and acknowledging what we're not doing well. I think all of those are starting points for us to get better and to show people what this city really has to offer. So I'll answer the other questions that you might have, but I just wanted to make sure that I got those points in because I think it's important for all of us to work together, and that's our main point right now.
Thank you so much. Okay, and I'm a mom, so I have kids at home, and my daughter is, here I am being a parent really quickly. So just in case you're asking what I'm doing, I wanted to make sure. Oh, okay, we'll close out with this portion of Q&A, and then we'll do the exercise, and then we'll have the panelists close out, but we really have to make sure before people start to leave, we move on with the exercise and have the takeaway. This is not the only time, just to keep that in mind, that we'll be meeting again.
Whew. My God. Be as quick as I possibly can. I just feel in my heart, Brother Noble mentioned about the enemy, who the real enemy is, and help me, Holy Spirit, the enemy of our soul, Satan. I'm just going to read some verses that really helped me to understand a lot of things. I heard somebody mention about boot camp. Okay, I'm at the corner of Carver and Midland. That's my business. I could tell you some history, but I went out in the name of Jesus. I agree. Yeah, God bless you. God bless you, my sister. I want to read these scriptures right here. We have to educate ourselves spiritually because this is a spiritual war, Brother Noble. It's spiritual. And the root is Satan. This scripture, Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, everybody that have any kind of understanding about who God is, just take the time to meditate on this and let him teach us what we are really dealing with. Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, starting at the first verse, and you he made alive who were dead in trespass and sin. Sin is not a bad word. We have to understand what that really means. In which you once walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air. Think about that. According to the prince of the power of the air. Just keep that in mind. The Spirit, who now, my God, work in the sons of disobedience. Spirit, think about that. Among whom also we all, no one is excluded. We all once conducted ourselves in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind. That's why it says the enemy of our soul, the mind the mind, the soul. My God, help me, Jesus. And were by nature children of wrath. Children of wrath, just as others. We don't get a chance to talk about one another. We all have to deal with that enemy, and his name is Satan. It's not like we chose it. It was handed down to us, the natural nature, Adam and Eve. It was handed down because of their disobedience. Because of their disobedience, we were handed down to that. Our natural nature is dealing with this. So I look at what's going on in our world, not just a community thing, is that the enemy of our soul, we have to educate ourselves who the real enemy is. We think it's flesh and blood. Flesh and blood. Flesh and blood. No. It's the enemy. His name is Satan. Listen. Oh my God. I'm telling you, I'm just bubbling over to understand that God himself, Jesus said, the thief cometh. He come as a thief to kill, steal, and destroy. And then Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians, in the 2nd chapter, don't be ignorant of the devil's devices. Because when we do, he get advantage. Let's understand who the real enemy is. And then we can really come together. Amen. We can really come together. Because it's not flesh and blood. God bless you. Thank you.
That's right. Who the real enemy,
Yes.
the real enemy is. Who the real enemy is, because it's not us. I heard here tonight, we heard here tonight, several things and several solutions. The goal was to walk away with an action that we can all do when we meet back February 28th, 6 p.m. at the Southwest Community Center. Now clearly, there's a lot of content, a lot of information, a lot of perspective and stories we have heard tonight. So how are we going to do this? I look around this room, and I'm very familiar with many faces, but I'm not familiar with all faces. But what I do know is that you showed up here tonight. So give yourselves a clap for that. You're not clapping because you are here. You are here. And then someone made a valid point, and it was Fanny, about the youth. All right, because who else needs to be here? Let's think about this, if you can. Who should be here tonight? Whether, they couldn't get here, they didn't know about it, it doesn't matter. But if you look around this room for a moment, if you can, just look around the room. Look around. Everything that you heard here this evening, who's missing? And I think if this don't have to be the only action item, but we do want to make sure that on February 28th, we have some of the young people in the room so that they can hear and see the love and see what we're doing by organizing and coming together for them. People from all walks of life, all sides of town, they need to see that and know that this is also happening. I need some brave souls because not everybody is speaking. So if anyone would like to stand up and come to the front of the aisle with me, please do so. Maybe 5 people. If I could just get 5 brave souls that have something on their mind, that they're open, they got ideas, or some thoughts from what they heard tonight about what that action item could be from our audience, please come to the front with me and our panelists. If you have any thoughts from what you heard tonight as an action that we can do together as a community, and just think it's not stopping here with us like, oh, we're just going to do, we're going to tell our family, we're going to tell our friends, we're going to tell others, if they can for the next month, do something. All right. If I can get one more person. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Someone said I could come on my own. Come on. Oh, okay, we got somebody up here. That's fine. You can keep coming if you want to. That's fine. Come on, sir. Are you coming up here? Thank you so much. Because engagement is really important, right? It's good to hear from decision makers and leaders. We have agency here. We have school district here. We have several institutions here. We have funders here. We have council people here. And that's all good. That's all great. But we also need to hear from you. So the task is, based on what you heard tonight, What is an actionable thing that we can take that you think would be good to do or call people to do over the next month until we meet February 28th, based on what you heard tonight?
I would truly like if the companies that have been companies would start opening up and trying to get our youth more involved in jobs so that we can put some money in their pockets so that they don't have to take it. We need to give them a vision, and that's important. And I also think that we have pastors in the town, and not saying anything about them, but they need to come off from behind the wall so that the people see more influential people out there fighting for this cause, you know, and I would appreciate seeing that.
Okay, that's great. That's a long-term goal. So I want you to think about something short-term that you, me, and everyone else in this room that you think that we can do based on what you heard tonight, together in unison over the next month as a community.
Everybody bring 3 people here, and then we discuss it better because that'll widen our vision.
Love it. Thank you. Everybody bring 3 people here. That's one. Thank you so much. So the same thing, short-term goal over the next month, that's something that we all can do when we leave here tonight.
Yeah, I could just say, like, always remember, you know, what you learn and what you believe in when it comes to this topic of gun violence. And just from that, like from tonight, if you see, you know, someone that you think you can go up and talk to, that you think isn't in the right path, just tell them how you feel about gun violence. Or if you see the chance, and just take it from now on, like, you know, for the rest of your life.
Right.
You know, just always remember, you know, about this message, and don't let it die. Just talk to people about it. And the more people like us that talk to people about it, we can spread the message and fight against it.
Thank you so much. All right. So we have bring 3 people, and when you see someone